My name is Michael Thompson, 42, an average guy from suburban Ohio. I grew up here, surrounded by familiar faces and routine. I met Sarah in high school at a diner, her smile bright. We fell in love over milkshakes, married for 15 years now. Our Elm Street home has a backyard for the kids and a garage for my tinkering. We have 2 kids, the heart of our world. Jack, 10, is a soccer-loving bundle of energy, coming home muddy and grinning. I ruffle his hair, urging him to clean up. Emily, 7, our artist, draws fantastical worlds, her blue eyes like Sarah's. Being a dad is my joy, but I worry about their college funds and friends. I work as a mechanic at Joe's auto shop, a family business older than me. Joe, like a second father, taught me everything from oil changes to engine rebuilds. Days smell of grease, filled with tool clanks and customer stories. Mr. Henderson's tales, Mrs. Patel's apologies for her minivan's mess. The work's honest, but pays modest. Life was simple, predictable. Mornings, alarm at 6 a.m., coffee from Sarah, kisses goodbye, and school drop-offs for Jack and Emily. The drive was my quiet time, classic rock on the radio. Evenings were family dinners, spaghetti or chicken, sharing stories, then games or movies. I'd cheer for the Buckeyes with a beer. But cracks formed. Sarah and I drifted, arguing over laundry or my late hours. I loved her, but forgot to say it. Jack noticed her sadness. I'd joke it off. Bills piled up, mortgage, groceries, car payments. Emily's reading struggles worried me. The weight of providing exhausted me, my strength stretched thin. Faith was a faded memory. Childhood Sundays at the Baptist church, sermons, hymns, faded as life got busy. Church was just Easter or Christmas. I believed in God vaguely, praying only in tough times, like when the shop was slow. God help us, I'd mutter, relying on my hands to fix life's breaks. That changed on an October 2025 afternoon. Autumn leaves painted Ohio gold and red, winter's chill near. I'd fixed a tricky transmission at work, chatted about holidays. Joe clapped my back. Good work, Mike. I drove home, radio playing the Eagles, thinking of Sarah's lasagna and the kids' day. Then chaos struck. A semi-truck swerved wildly ahead, driver asleep or tire blown. No time to react. My car slammed into its trailer, metal screaming, glass shattering like confetti. Pain erupted, chest, head, limbs, as the dashboard crushed in. The airbag deployed, but the world spun into a blur of smoke and shouts. In those final seconds, life flashed. Not grand, but ordinary. Sarah's wedding laugh, Jack's first steps, Emily's tiny hand. Agony peaked, a white-hot surge, then darkness swallowed me. My heart stopped in the wreckage. Paramedics too late. My simple life ended, a doorway to transformation opening. As the pain from the crash ebbed like a receding tide, I felt an inexplicable lightness. It was as if shedding a heavy coat on a spring day, freeing me from flesh and bone. The transition was seamless, defying the accident's brutality. One moment, trapped in twisted metal, nerves screaming. The next, liberated, rising above the devastation. Suddenly, I hovered above the interstate, detached from the chaos. My sedan mangled with the semi-truck, smoke curling like ghostly tendrils. Emergency lights strobed reds and blues, shadows on responders' faces. Sirens wailed muffled, like through cotton. My body slumped in the seat, pale, bloodied, still. A gash oozed crimson, chest unmoving. Paramedics worked urgently in vests and gloves. One pried the door with a groaning tool, another shouted, "No pulse!" Defibrillator, charge 200 joules. They attached pads called clear. Electricity surged, but I felt nothing. It was like watching a movie of someone else's tragedy. Yet, no fear gripped me. Agony gone, replaced by profound peace. Like a warm blanket of calm, the chaos below seemed distant, insignificant. Petty life concerns reduced to specks in a cosmic landscape. As I ascended, drawn by a gentle force, the world blurred into a tapestry of colors. Taillights reds merged with sunset oranges, police blues with tree greens, a mesmerizing mosaic. Not heaven's gates, but a transitional realm beyond physics, time dissolved into eternal now. Fragments of life surfaced gently. Sarah in the kitchen, stirring, glancing at the clock, concerned. Tears would come later, Jack kicking a ball in the backyard, Emily sketching a rainbow. Their laughter tugged at me, a subtle sorrow amid their innocence. Yet, grief transformed by overwhelming love, boundless, unconditional. It embraced my soul without judgment, fears dissolved, bills, arguments, doubts evaporated like dew. Shadows of daily life now trivial illusions. Floating higher, the light intensified, warm and inviting like a lighthouse. Drawn joyfully, it promised solace. Death not an end, but a doorway to infinite love, erasing earthly pain. I became one with it, ready for the unknown. The ascent continued, details fading. Sirens hummed to silence, colors unified into Earth's pulsating energy. I sensed interconnectedness, paramedics' compassion, onlookers' empathy, even the driver's regret. My life part of a divine tapestry. Peace deepened, I surrendered. As light enveloped me, I reflected on simplicity. Earthly security chased through work, but here it was inherent. Fears were shadows fleeing dawn. Love, tangible, whispering, "You are safe, you are loved, you are home." As I drifted into the radiant light, it enveloped me like a mother's embrace after a long absence. A figure emerged, tall and serene, exuding quiet authority born of infinite wisdom. His eyes, deep as oceans, reflected my emotions through a lens of understanding. His presence radiated love, the air alive with warmth, soothing my soul. I knew it was Jesus, no crown, no trumpets, just a glowing form like sunlight through clouds. His smile, warmer than any embrace, conveyed acceptance and joy, wrapping my spirit in comfort. There was no judgment in his gaze, only compassion that pierced my soul, illuminating hidden corners. He saw every flaw, yet loved me more for them, turning brokenness into growth. "Michael," he said, his voice like gentle waves, intimate and wise, "you are loved beyond measure. Come, let us walk together." His words were an invitation, promising companionship without condition. We moved through a vast garden, blooming with impossible hues, crimsons like rubies, blues deeper than night, greens pulsing with life. The ground felt soft, yet solid, though I had no feet. Trees whispered secrets in a breeze of rain and jasmine. Streams sang, harmonizing with the light. Colors were vivid, evoking joy and wonder. Birds with rainbow feathers sang praises, and hills rolled gently, bathed in eternal dawn. As we walked, he touched my shoulder, a real yet ethereal gesture. Healing energy washed through me, cleansing wounds, regrets of harsh words to Sarah, missed moments with Jack and Emily, faith I'd let slip, lies, envy, doubts dissolved into light. Every burden lifted, as if they'd never held power over me. "Your weaknesses are not chains," he said tenderly, "but chances for grace. Humanity stumbles in fear's shadows, but my love guides you home. No condemnation, only mercy like a father's embrace." He saw all of me, and loved me still. His mercy a gift, wrapping my flaws like vines supporting a fragile bloom. He showed flashes of my life, not to shame, but to reveal beauty. I saw myself fixing a neighbor's car for free, their gratitude rippling outward, hugging Jack after a bad day, planting resilience, sharing coffee with Sarah, strengthening our bond. Each small act of kindness rippled, touching lives I never knew, echoing through eternity. He urged prayer, not as ritual, but a lifeline to this love. "Prayer is the soul's conversation," he said, eyes sparkling, "a bridge to the divine. It's about opening to love. Faith," he explained, "is trust, connecting heart to eternity. Faith is the bridge," he said, gesturing to an arch over a valley, "turning weakness into grace." His words stirred a yearning I'd suppressed. The garden bloomed brighter at his presence, petals dancing in light. He shared insights from my life, reframing struggles, wars, addictions, divisions, as chances for redemption. "Every heart beats with eternity," he said, touching a flower that bloomed brighter. "Your life, a preparation for this." His sincerity embraced frailty without excusing it. I felt seen, cherished, no longer the inadequate mechanic, but a beloved child. He urged me to extend compassion to Sarah, my kids, strangers. "Love is the ultimate truth," he said, his voice a lingering melody, "and sharing it makes you a vessel for miracles." The garden's beauty mirrored my peace, preparing me for a greater revelation. Then, with a subtle shift in the atmosphere, as if the very fabric of the garden realm was bending to his will, like a canvas yielding to an artist's brush. Jesus led me to a vantage point that overlooked not just the immediate surroundings of blooming flowers and whispering streams, but the entire expanse of the earth below, or rather, a visionary representation of it that transcended physical boundaries and linear time. This overlook was like a cosmic balcony suspended in the boundless ether, where the planet appeared as a glowing orb suspended in the vastness of space, its oceans of deep blue swirling with currents of life, its continents etched in greens and browns that pulsed with the heartbeat of billions of souls. Yet, this was no static image frozen in the present. It stretched and unfolded into the future, beyond the year 2025, revealing itself like a sacred scroll unrolling at his gentle command, each segment illuminated by a soft, ethereal light that highlighted both the encroaching shadows and the potential dawns of renewal. The air around us hummed with an anticipatory energy, as if the visions themselves were alive, breathing entities waiting to impart their truths. What I witnessed in those unfolding scenes shook me to the very core of my being, stirring a tumultuous mix of awe, profound sorrow, and an urgent resolve that penetrated deeper than any earthly experience ever could, forcing me to confront the fragility and interconnectedness of all creation. The scenes began with an onslaught of turmoil, vast and unrelenting, painting a picture of a world teetering on the brink of self-destruction through its own misguided pursuits. Wars raged across continents, not merely with the conventional weapons of missiles, tanks, and gunfire that scarred the land with craters and rubble, but with more insidious divisions festering deep within the hearts of men and women everywhere. I saw ideological battles erupting in boardrooms and streets alike, where words became weapons sharper than blades, slicing through societies and leaving wounds that festered with resentment. Nations, once proud pillars of stability, crumbled under the crushing weight of unchecked greed and seething hatred, their economies collapsing like houses of cards built on exploitation and corruption. Borders that had stood for centuries dissolved into chaos as alliances fractured like brittle glass under immense pressure. Refugees streaming across desolate landscapes in search of elusive safety, their eyes hollow with the trauma of displacement. Leaders, blinded by ambition, stoked flames of nationalism and division, pitting brother against brother in conflicts that spiraled into endless cycles of retaliation and loss. Cities that had once stood as gleaming beacons of human progress and ingenuity, towering skylines of glass and steel, symbolizing mankind's triumph over nature, were now engulfed in flames, not solely from the bombs of warfare, but from internal combustions of societal unrest and rebellion. Riots born of deep-seated inequality erupted like volcanoes long dormant, where the disenfranchised rose against systems that hoarded wealth for the few while condemning the many to poverty's grip. I watched as opulent districts burned alongside slums, the fires indiscriminate in their hunger, consuming symbols of excess and deprivation alike. But the destruction extended beyond human hands. Nature itself rebelled fiercely against humanity's neglect and abuse, unleashing cataclysms that served as stark reminders of our stewardship's failure. Massive floods swallowed coastal metropolises whole, waves crashing like divine judgments upon concrete jungles erected on reclaimed land, washing away homes, livelihoods, and illusions of invincibility. The waters rose relentlessly, driven by melting ice caps and intensified storms, submerging streets where people once walked freely, now forcing survivors to cling to rooftops in desperate pleas for rescue. Earthquakes rattled the very foundations of mighty skyscrapers, cracking open the earth like eggshells to reveal the raw, unstable core beneath mankind's hubris. Buildings swaying and collapsing in slow-motion horror as screams echoed through the dust-choked air. These tremors weren't isolated. They chained across fault lines, triggering tsunamis that ravaged shorelines and volcanic eruptions that blanketed skies in ash, blotting out the sun for days on end. Wildfires scorched vast landscapes with ferocious intensity, turning fertile forests and grasslands into ashen wastelands, the flames leaping from tree to tree like vengeful spirits protesting deforestation, pollution, and climate indifference. Animals fled in panic, their habitats eradicated, while humans choked on smoke that carried the acrid scent of irreversible loss. These natural disasters weren't mere coincidences or random acts of fate. They were poignant echoes of collective choices. Humanity's disregard for the planet's delicate balance manifesting an elemental fury that demanded reckoning and change. Moral decay spread insidiously through the visions, like shadows lengthening at dusk, creeping into every facet of daily life and eroding the very soul of society with subtle, pervasive corruption. Families, once the sacred bedrock of love, support, and stability, were torn asunder by addictions that gripped like iron vices around fragile hearts. Substances both legal and illicit numbing existential pain but ultimately devouring spirits, leaving hollow shells where vibrant lives once thrived. Parents lost to opioids or alcohol, children adrift in foster systems or streets, bonds shattered by the relentless pull of escape from reality's harsh edges. Digital obsessions compounded this isolation, ensnaring individuals in virtual prisons of screens and algorithms, where real connections withered like untended gardens, replaced by superficial likes and follows that offered no true nourishment. Societies, blinded by rampant materialism and consumerism, chased fleeting pleasures and possessions, accumulating wealth that hollowed out their inner worlds, leaving voids filled with despair and emptiness. Spiritual battles unfolded in the unseen realms, where darkness whispered seductive lies of self-sufficiency and doubt, convincing people that faith was folly and love a weakness. I saw leaders corrupted by power, manipulating masses with falsehoods that divided communities into warring factions, neighbor against neighbor. "These are the trials to come," Jesus explained, his voice remaining steady and composed amid the swirling turmoil of the visions, an anchor in the storm that raged before my eyes. Humanity has wandered far from the path of light, chasing illusions of power, pleasure, and control, but this wayward journey leads inevitably to destruction, a self-inflicted unraveling of the divine tapestry. His words cut through the chaos like a beam of clarity, not to instill fear, but to awaken awareness of the consequences ahead. Yet, even as the darkness threatened to overwhelm, glimmers of hope pierced through like stars emerging in a night sky after a tempest, revealing that redemption was not only possible, but woven into the fabric of these prophecies. He showed me a great spiritual awakening stirring in the hearts of the weary, beginning in hidden corners where individuals knelt in quiet prayer, their whispers rising like incense to ignite broader change. Churches, long dormant or divided by dogma, overflowed not with rigid judgment or exclusionary doctrines, but with open arms extended in genuine welcome, becoming sanctuaries where the broken found healing and the lost discovered purpose through shared stories of grace. Communities formed around shared faith, bridging divides of race, class, and creed, as people turned from isolation to unity, their collective prayers forming a protective shield against the encroaching shadows. "Through faith and love," he said, his tone infused with an unshakable confidence that bolstered my spirit, "you can turn the tide of these events. The light of mercy will pierce the enveloping darkness, sparking revivals that sweep across lands like wildfires of renewal, where lost souls find their way back to truth and compassion." The visions grew more specific and stark, timelines crystallizing before me. By 2030, global upheavals would intensify, testing the resilience of souls worldwide with economic collapses that exposed the fragility of material pursuits. Pandemics would force introspection on mortality and interconnectedness, while technological advancements, if misused, amplified divisions through surveillance, misinformation, and artificial dependencies that distance people from authentic relationships. Yet, those rooted deeply in prayer and spiritual practice would stand firm as anchors amid the tempests, their unwavering faith serving as beacons that guided others through the storms, offering solace and direction when all else faltered. I saw pockets of resistance, small groups gathering in homes, parks, and online spaces, sharing testimonies of transformation that inspired waves of conversion, turning despair into determination and fostering grassroots movements of empathy and service. It wasn't a prophecy of inevitable doom, but a multifaceted call to action, a divine blueprint revealing that our choices, embracing love over fear, forgiveness over grudge, and unity over division, could reshape the world's fate, altering the trajectory from destruction to restoration. The visions emphasized personal responsibility. Each act of kindness, each moment of prayer, rippled outward, countering the tide of decay with waves of light that grew into tsunamis of positive change. By 2040, if humanity heeded the call, scenes shifted to rebuilt cities where sustainability harmonized with nature, communities thriving on principles of equity and spiritual awareness, wars giving way to dialogues of peace. But if ignored, the shadows deepened, leading to greater isolation and loss. Jesus turned to me, his eyes reflecting both the pain and potential. This future is not set in stone. It is molded by free will. Return and be a catalyst, Michael. Live the love you've felt here. The revelations lingered, imprinting on my soul a profound urgency to share these truths, to awaken others to the power of faith in averting calamity and fostering a world aligned with divine love. Suddenly, a pull tugged at me, like a gentle current drawing me back from the radiant garden. Jesus smiled knowingly, his eyes warm with purpose. "It is not yet your time, Michael," he said, his voice a steady anchor. "Return and share what you've seen. Help others see the light in their darkness, the love that conquers all fears." His words carried a mission, urgent yet kind, a call to carry the truth of his love back to the world. The visions of future turmoil and hope faded, the garden's colors softening as if bidding farewell. My soul ached to stay, but his assurance filled me with courage. I felt my essence plummet, a rush like falling through clouds, back to the confines of my earthly body. I gasped awake in the hospital, machines beeping wildly, a cacophony of life reclaiming me. Doctors stood frozen, their faces etched with disbelief, charts trembling in their hands. "He's back!" one shouted, scrambling to check monitors. I'd been clinically dead for 12 minutes, they later told me. A miracle defying all medical odds. My chest ached, bandages tight across my ribs, a dull throb in my head where stitches held torn skin. Yet, none of it compared to the fire now burning within me, a spiritual awakening that made the pain feel trivial. The sterile room, with its antiseptic smell and flickering lights, was a stark contrast to the garden's vibrancy, but I carried its light within. Sarah was there, her face streaked with tears, her hands gripping mine as if I might vanish again. Her eyes, red from hours of worry, widened with relief and fear. "Michael, oh God, you're alive," she sobbed, her voice breaking. I squeezed her hand, my throat too raw to speak, but my heart whispered gratitude. The kids rushed in soon after, Jack's bravado crumbling as he buried his face in my shoulder, Emily clinging to my arm, her drawings forgotten in her joy. Their hugs were anchors, tethering me to this second chance. I saw their fear, hours spent thinking they'd lost me, and vowed never to take them for granted again. But I was changed, reborn in a way no words could fully capture. The ordinary worries that once consumed me, bills, schedules, petty arguments, paled against the truths I'd witnessed. The visions of wars, floods, and spiritual battles lingered, but so did the promise of revival through faith and love. I felt a burning mission, not born of duty but of love, to share what I'd seen. Jesus' words echoed, "Help others see the light." I wasn't just a mechanic anymore. I was a messenger, tasked with spreading hope in a world teetering on the edge. My life, once routine, now had a higher purpose, to awaken others to divine love. The hospital days blurred, filled with tests and hushed conversations. Nurses called my survival a miracle, their eyes curious as I spoke of peace beyond death. Sarah listened, hesitant but open, as I shared fragments of my encounter. "I saw him, Sarah," I whispered one night, her hand in mine. "He showed me love that changes everything." She didn't fully understand, not yet, but her nod was enough. I knew my story would be hard to believe, near-death experiences often dismissed as dreams, but the clarity of his voice, the weight of his mission, was undeniable. I had to share it, no matter the skepticism. Once home, I couldn't return to the old routine. The garage, once my sanctuary, felt small compared to the eternal garden. Yet, I returned to work, not for money alone, but to connect. I listened to customers, Mr. Henderson's stories, Mrs. Patel's worries, offering kindness where I'd once been curt. I started speaking at our local church, a place I'd barely visited in years. The pews, once half empty, began to fill as I shared my story, not preaching, but testifying. I died, I'd say, voice steady. And Jesus showed me love is stronger than fear. Prayer is our bridge to it. My words resonated, sparking questions and tears. People shared their own struggles, addictions, broken families, lost faith, and I listened, offering the mercy I'd felt. I began writing, first a blog, then a small book, detailing my encounter and the visions of 2030's trials. It wasn't about fame, but reaching those lost in darkness. I spoke of prayer, not as ritual, but as a lifeline, urging others to seek the light I'd seen. Churches invited me to speak, and I traveled, Sarah and the kids sometimes joining, their support grounding me. Jack and Emily changed too. Jack asked about God, his soccer games now ending with quiet prayers. Emily drew pictures of glowing figures, her crayons capturing the garden's hues. Sarah, once skeptical, began praying with me, our evenings filled with talks of faith. Our marriage deepened, old arguments replaced by understanding. I taught my family the power of love, not as a feeling, but a force that heals. The visions of future chaos, wars, floods, moral decay, urged me to act. If humanity could turn to prayer, we could avert the worst, fostering a revival of compassion. By 2026, my story spread, touching lives beyond Ohio. Letters came from strangers, thanking me for hope amid despair. I joined community groups, helping the homeless, visiting addicts, showing them the light I'd seen. Each act felt like planting seeds from that garden, each prayer a ripple against the coming storms. The world after 2025 would be turbulent, Jesus had warned, but with mercy as our guide, we could navigate it. My encounter wasn't just for me. It was a gift to share, a beacon to illuminate the path for all, a call to live with love as our purpose.